Hi guys, welcome back. My name is Rosie. If you are new here, please do subscribe. So in this video, I really want to talk about the books that I read in 2020 and the books that I plan on reading in 2021. So I'm dyslexic. I did a video talking about that. I'll leave it linked here, where I found out I was dyslexic at university, and I've always struggled with reading and retaining information, and also with listening to audiobooks and actually reading. So what I do now is I do both. I listen to the audiobook on my phone at the same time I read the book on my Kindle. So I bought this in May 2020. I did a video with a kind of unboxing and first impressions review, again linked here. And I did a video after 3 months talking about a 3-month review and kind of how I'm getting on with it, again linked here. I'll leave all of them linked below as well in case you want to watch those. But it's kind of opened up a whole world for me. Now, I haven't read as much as I would like to have done this year in 2020, but I did read more than I ever have done in my entire life. So previously, reading a book, I would maybe read the first 2 chapters and then give up. Or it would take me maybe 6 months or a year to read just a normal regular sized book. So it's only really been this year that I've kind of gotten excited about books. I've downloaded books, I've been on book websites and Amazon looking at all the different options and different books that I want to read in different genres and different, I don't know, there's just so much. It's like opened a whole new world for me. With that being said, so I bought my Kindle in May, so I've had May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, 7 months, and I've read 6 books in that time. 5.5. 5.5 books in that time. So not a crazy amount, but my plan for 2021 is to read 2 books a month. That's ambitious. That is very, very ambitious for me, because even one a month is hard. But I do just want to read a lot, because I feel like, so I'm 32, and I feel like I've missed out on a lot of reading from my childhood and from my teenage years and my 20s. I've never really read books, and I feel like I've missed out on so much information, but also so many stories, and just a lot I've missed out on. So I want to talk about the books, the 5.5 books that I read in 2020 and the books that I plan on reading this year. It's hard to say this year, next year. It's all kind of, it's not quite 2021 in my mind yet, even though it is. So, the first book that I read last year was Daring Greatly by Brené Brown. Now, she has spent the past 2 decades studying courage, vulnerability, shame, and empathy. And this was, it's hard for me. So books like this I find harder to get into, but you get a lot more out of them. So it's really interesting to learn about shame and about how people react to different situations in different ways. And yeah, I'm going to be awful at this video. I can tell already I'm not very good at explaining books. Like I said, reading is all very new to me, but it was a good one to start with. It was one that Jeremy had read as well, and it's really interesting to kind of analyse how you act, or how different family members or friends act in different situations, and how men and women are treated differently as well in terms of crying and expressing emotions and childhood things. And it was just super, super interesting. So that was the first one that I read. I'll probably have to read it again. I really want to start writing down what the book is about, so that when I do these videos like this, I actually have my view. Like, I read this last year, so I've kind of forgotten, honestly. But I want to start writing down what the books are about and the main takeaways from the books. I haven't done that for these ones, so it might be a little bit all over the place for this video. But hopefully in future videos, for the ones that I do read, I'll be able to do a kind of a more informative, I guess, video. Anyway, that was the first book that I read. I would recommend it for people just to kind of learn a little bit about behaviour and about, yeah, like why people do certain things in certain situations, I guess. The next one I read is When Breath Becomes Air by Paul Kalanithi. I don't think I'm saying his name right. Very, very moving book. So it's a guy who is a neurosurgeon, and he gets cancer, and he has to go through the cancer treatments, and it kind of shows it from, obviously he's used to being a doctor and being on that side of the patient-doctor relationship. He's usually the doctor in that situation. Whereas this book explains his experience as the patient and how it is going in for these tests, and how his family acts, and how his career has changed, and all these different things. And he writes about it from a doctor's point of view. So it was super interesting, really emotional. It's a memoir, so it's written by him. So it's all, again, it's hard for me to say enough without saying too much. And obviously because I'm not very, I don't know, I'm new to this. So it was really interesting, really good read. Kind of confusing in terms of the sciencey, doctory terminology, but if you just glaze past that bit until, you know, to the next bit, there's more about the story. It's really, really lovely story. Very sad, and kind of moral dilemmas there in terms of having children even though he knows he's going to die, and does he put that on his wife and do they do it anyway? And yeah, it was interesting. It was really interesting. The next one I read, I don't think these are in order. I can't remember the order I read them in either. The Tattooist of Auschwitz by Heather Morris. Now this is a book about a guy called Lale who goes to the concentration camps in Nazi Germany, and it talks about his experience in terms of the job he was told to do. So he was a tattooist, so he would tattoo on the numbers for the prisoners who went there. He would have to tattoo on the numbers on their arms. So he talks about how he got that job, how it was tattooing children, women, old men, you know, everyone who passed through the concentration camps, how actually that was for him doing that, and, you know, permanently marking people he didn't know because that he had to do it. His life there in terms of food, in terms of relationships, friends, girlfriends, it's just really, yeah, it's really nice to, not nice, I mean that's probably not the best, but it's really interesting to be put in that situation and to read about it from his point of view. It's not written by him, but I think it's gathered from, you know, lots of information that they have about the concentration camps, and they've put this story together, and it's really interesting to see how it all worked, and the kind of not the behind the scenes, because obviously I don't really know how to explain it. It was just really interesting how, like, to hear the story from that time and that history in a way that you can really connect to the story. So really amazing. The next one I read is Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. Now this one I really need to read again, because basically when I started reading on my Kindle, I was like, oh my god, and I think I watched like an Ali Abdul video, and he was saying that he speeds up the audiobook, so he reads it like 2 or 3 times the speed. So I thought, oh, that's amazing, I'll do that, and I'll read this book in 3 days. I read the book in 3 days, and I really wish I hadn't. I really wish I'd savoured the information and what I was reading and listening to, because it was, I think the main thing I took from this was that inspiration can come and go, and inspiration just is looking for somebody to make that idea become a reality. So if you feel inspired to do something, do it straight away before it leaves you and goes on to the next person. And also the other thing I took from this was that you can be creative without expecting to make money from it, without it having to be a career choice, without it having to be this big thing. You can just create because you want to create and to have fun. And I read this around the time I was doing my painting. I started painting in August for about a month. I hadn't done any photo shoots. I was feeling really creative and I wanted to do something, so I bought lots of painting supplies. And I remember talking to Jeremy being like, oh, you know, we're going to have to sell these to make our money back. And actually, you don't have to sell artwork. You can just create art to be creative. And it's really nice to kind of have that, be given that permission, if that makes sense. I know it sounds really crazy, but to be given permission to create without having to then make it into a sale and to make profit from it and turn it into something. It can just be painting for 2 weeks and that's all it is. Really interesting book about kind of creativity and ideas and how, yeah, just about people being creative basically. I really want to read that one again though, and read it slowly and actually take my time with it a little bit more and take notes and highlight quotes and things that inspire me, because afterwards I try to look for quotes online, but the quotes that are always quoted from this book are not necessarily the ones that resonated with me the most. And I feel like with books like this, I feel like it's something you probably read every couple of years, and I feel like you'll probably get different things from it every time you read it depending on where you're at in your life. So really enjoyed that one. Perfect for anyone who's creative, anybody who maybe has self-doubt as well in terms of their creative abilities. Art doesn't have to be perfect was one of the kind of similar quotes. It doesn't have to be perfect, it doesn't have to serve a purpose. It can be just to be creative. The next one I read is The Help by Catherine Stockett. Now I've watched this film a couple of times, but a couple of years ago, and it was actually really good to read the actual book because I've never really read before. I've never watched a film first and then read the book afterwards. So it was really interesting to see how the story is slightly different and how I connected so much more with the book than I do with the film. It's a good film, don't get me wrong, but when you read the book you feel a lot more connected to the characters and to their story and to wanting them to succeed and, you know, the final outcome and all the rest of it. You kind of feel really attached to the characters a lot more. And it's also really interesting to see that point of view. So it's based around African Americans working in white households and how they the relationship between them with the white children that they're looking after and also the white women that they're helping and serving, and the relationship between them as well together, and how they're perceived, how they're treated, yeah, it's really, really, really interesting because obviously I was not alive at that time and I've only been in America for 3 years, so that kind of history I've never really been taught about a whole lot. So it was interesting to see it from that point of view, and yeah, really, really good. And anyway, at the moment I'm reading Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert. Again, I've seen the film multiple times. It's one of my, maybe not one of my favourites, but I do enjoy it. It's a good film. But again, reading the book, there's so much more information and you feel a lot more connected to the characters. Now I'm only halfway through, which is why I said I've read 5.5 books. I'm at the point where she's in India, in the ashram, she's meditating with the guy from Texas, I can't remember his name, David maybe, from Texas. So I'm at that point, but again, like the details in terms of when she goes away in Italy to different, you know, places for the weekend, and the experiences she's having in the ashram, and everything's a lot more detailed. And again, this is the second time now that I've watched a film first and now I'm reading the book. And the book is a lot better, because it's a lot more detailed and a lot more, you feel connected to the character a lot more than in the films. So I'm really enjoying that. It's kind of, yeah, I'm hoping to finish it soon because I wanted to start 2021 with a fresh slate and a new set of books to read. So I still need to finish this one that I'm reading at the moment. Hopefully I'll get there soon. But I wanted to talk about the books on my reading list for 2021 as well. Obviously I can't talk too much about what they're about because I haven't read them yet, but I just thought it could be interesting to talk to you guys about the books I want to read, and also see if in a year's time I do read them or not, and then give you some sort of review on them afterwards. So the first one, Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty. Now Jay Shetty is a huge like motivational, inspirational person, character, entrepreneur, whatever he is. And he was a monk for a couple of years, and he talks about how being a monk and meditation changed his life now, and how he implements the things he learned as a monk into his everyday life. I think that's basically the basis of the book, but I think it'd be really interesting to learn from him because he's super inspiring, and yeah, I think I'll learn a lot from that in terms of what he's learned in self-reflection and things. The second book I want to read is The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. This book is recommended by so many entrepreneurs. It's quite an old book, I think it's probably like 10, maybe more years old. So the information is a little bit dated, however, the kind of concepts behind it are apparently still relevant today. This is going to be really interesting because obviously we're going to go traveling and we're going to expand our businesses. So I want to know how to work smarter, not harder, and how to work a couple of hours per week but still make a good living wage from that. So hopefully I get lots of insight from that one. The next one is Atomic Habits by James Clear. So I'm the worst at habits. I have so many bad habits and not many good ones. I'm trying to set up my 2021 to be better. So I want to try and have a morning routine, an evening routine, and have habits in place. So I think that by reading this book, I'll learn a lot as well in terms of the importance of that and how that kind of chemically changes your brain and how that affects your whole day, and hopefully just get some more information on it basically, because I know it's good for you. I don't particularly know why it is good to have habits, to have good habits and have routines. So it'd be interesting to find out and to read that and to see if it changes my life. We'll see. It's always one of those books as well that's recommended by entrepreneurs and business people as a book that you must read to kind of elevate your self-development, I guess. The next one is This Is Marketing by Seth Godin. So this was actually gifted to me by my coach who's helped me with my online program. So I'm actually a dog photographer full time, and I have a 6-week online program teaching people how to be a dog photographer as well. And I hired my coach Abraham to help me learn how to market and sell this program to people. And he recommended this book. He actually gifted it to us as part of the program to learn about This Is Marketing. So how to market to people, how to sell, I don't know, again, I need to read it, I haven't read it yet. But it's going to be really interesting to learn about marketing on a deeper level, and I feel like that's the skill I'm lacking the most in business. I feel like I'm good at ideas, I'm good at kind of Instagram and getting people and like the buzz and the branding and all that kind of thing. I feel like I'm okay at, okay or good or whatever. Marketing and selling is the thing I lack completely. I'm rubbish, so I need to learn as much as possible about that. So that's definitely something I want to read this year. The next one is Untamed by Glennon Doyle. This one is supposed to be amazing for personal development for women in particular, I think. I think it's her experience of being, I don't know too much about this one honestly, but I think it's about kind of being quiet and down and kept quiet and small and things, but her wanting to burst through and do well, maybe? I need to definitely to read that one. I don't know a whole lot, but I think it's a lot about like women empowerment and how we can do it as well, and it's not a man's world basically. Next up is Becoming by Michelle Obama. So I've heard so many good reviews of this book and how informative it is. I don't honestly know a whole lot about her. I know she's amazing, she's fierce, she's fabulous. obviously married to Barack Obama, who was the president of the States. But I'd love to know more about her upbringing, her upbringing, where she's from, and how she met Barack Obama, and how she's kind of transitioned and moved on with him, and everything that's happened in her life. I think it's going to be really, really informative, and especially as obviously the first black president, being married to him, that must have been a crazy, proud experience. So I'm looking forward to reading about her life a little bit more and learning more about that side of her life, rather than just the public eye life that she's, that people know of her. Okay, so that was the kind of self-development businessy books. I then have a couple of, I call them storybooks. Are they fiction or non-fiction? I don't know the difference between those, so I call them storybooks. Books that aren't necessarily true, but they're stories. I actually sound like a child. So a couple of books I want to read. 9 Perfect Strangers by Leanne Moriarty. I bought this book probably 2 years ago, wanting to read it again because I didn't have the Kindle, because I didn't have audiobooks. I maybe read the first chapter twice or 3 times and I just couldn't get into it. But I think it's about people who go on a vacation together or stay in a house together, and then something happens and they have to figure out who it is. I think it's some sort of murder mystery. And I can't remember the whole plot of it, but that sounds like quite a fun book to try and figure out who it was or what happened there. So I'm looking forward to reading that one. The next one is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. I have no idea what this book's about. I can't remember now. This is the thing, because when I got the Kindle and I realised, oh my god, there's so many books out there that I want to read, I spent so much time on book websites and just downloaded anything that sounded good. Download. So I got loads of books and I have no idea what this one's about. Honestly, no idea. But I want to read it. It's been in lots of videos saying it's a good book, so I'd like to read it. Next one is Educated by Tara Westover. So Jeremy read this one recently and said it was really informative, because it's about this girl who grew up in a very small town. I don't think she went to school, not very educated at all. She happened to leave. I don't know how she left, but she left and found education and got herself educated and changed her life completely from where she grew up to where she is now. So I think that'd be a really interesting look at, I don't know if it's about American culture, but about where she grew up, at least in the States, and the educational system maybe, and going from nothing to something. And yeah, I'm interested to know about that one. The next one is Sissy by Jacob Tabaya. Again, I don't know the full idea about this book. I think it's about either a gay man or a trans man or something, and to do with his upbringing and how he was always called a sissy, I guess, and kind of coming out through that, and his journey in terms of his sexuality and coming out and things. So obviously as a straight person, I've never gone through that, and it's also something you don't particularly go into much detail with any gay friends, asking them, okay, well, how are you treated as a child and how did you come out, and this, that and the other. So it'd be interesting to see that from somebody's point of view, from their point of view, talking about their experience of that, of being gay, coming out to family and friends, and experience as a child and bullying and all that kind of thing. So I'm excited to read that one. And then the next genre is, I guess, books that I wrote down after the Black Lives Matter movement that happened last year with obviously the murder of George Floyd. There was lots of books that I wrote down, and these ones in particular are ones that I do want to read this year. I was meant to read them last year. I think they just seemed a little bit daunting for someone who had just started reading, so I didn't get into them. But the 5 in particular that I want to read are Just Mercy by Brian Stevenson. Now, I've seen a documentary about this on Netflix, obviously about the boy, I can't remember his name, who was incarcerated at 16, I believe, for stealing a backpack or something. Was in jail for a while, was treated very, very badly in jail, and he was segregated a lot, put on his own isolation a lot. And he talks about his experience and what happened, and how black kids are treated in the States, honestly, and how the system works. The system's not broken, it's working exactly how it's designed to do. So that should be a hard read, I think, but also very, I guess it opened my eyes to what happens here, because like I said, I'm not from the States. I've seen the film, the documentary, but it'd be interesting to read the book and kind of get more background, and I don't know. So that's that one. The next one is When They Call You a Terrorist by Patrice Khan-Cullors. I don't know a whole lot about what this book is about, honestly. I guess it's just about people's experiences of being either black or a person of colour, and how they go through that. I don't know too much, honestly, but it is something I do want to learn more about and to read about. The next one is White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. Again, something I hadn't really heard about before, white fragility, until last year, and about, you know, white privilege. And I'd obviously heard about white privilege, but I didn't quite understand what it meant to be white and for that to be a privilege. So that's going to be interesting to learn about white fragility and how white people feel attacked as soon as black people or people of colour stand up for themselves. And I think it's going to be interesting to read and to kind of reflect that on myself and how I feel with that as well as a white person reading this. So I'm looking forward to reading that one. The last two are Me and White Supremacy by Layla Saad. Again, I think that's going to be really interesting to see a black person or person of colour's idea of white supremacy. Again, something I've heard of, but you always think white supremacy is kind of the KKK and super extreme groups, but it's white supremacy is everywhere without even realising it. I think, you know, adverts and commercials and models, and like if you go to the supermarket, there's hair dye for white women but not a lot for black women, and like just the white supremacy is everywhere without it being super extreme. I think that's what this book is about. And the last one is How to Be Antiracist by Ibram X. Kendi. Again, another book about how to be, I mean, something else I learned from last year is that I thought that by being not racist was enough, but actually you have to learn how to be anti-racist. And I think this is going to be really interesting to see about how a white person can help in the black communities and the people of colour, and how we can have a voice and help, but also give people of colour and black people a voice as well, and listen to them and listen to their stories and their experiences, and learn to not only be not racist but learn to be anti-racist. So if you hear, even if you don't say racist things yourself, if you hear somebody being racist, call it out and try and stop it. That's how you can be anti-racist. So I'm looking forward to reading that one as well, and kind of expanding my knowledge on the Black Lives Matter movement and everything that people go through that I have never experienced myself. I think it will be a really great learning experience, and I really want to devote more time this year to reading. So lots of different things, so self-development, storybooks as I call them, books about like Black Lives Matter, and just lots of different books from different places, and really try and expand my knowledge but also my ability to have conversations with people as well, because I feel like sometimes I'm so uneducated about things, even if it is just a storybook or if it is a self-help book or self-development, or if it is whatever. I feel so uneducated because I don't read books, so even just having things to talk about with people will be amazing. So that was the 5.5 books that I read in 2020 and the list of books that I want to read in 2021. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will leave all the links, by the way, for all the books down in the description box below if you want to grab any of these and give them a read. Let me know in the comments below which books you're going to be reading in 2021, and also which was your favourite book from 2020. Let's have a conversation. Make sure you subscribe for more videos, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!